One of the other things that's important, and very important, is that immediately upon signing the Memorandum of Understanding, the Hormuz Strait will open, and it'll open up quickly. That's subject to a couple of areas being cleaned out also of mines, which we don't think there are any.
All right, President Trump giving a positive assessment of ongoing negotiations with Iran. It comes despite recent strikes in the region straining an already fragile ceasefire. Here with us now, State Department spokesman Tommy Pigott. Tommy, thank you for being here this morning. Great to see you. So we want to start here. New report in the Wall Street Journal. There's a headline, the president telling aides he won't resume all-out war with Iran unless U.S. troops are killed. Do you have any concern that that might disincentivize negotiations if the Iranians think that there is this threshold for any kinetic action?
Well, look, fundamentally, what we've seen over the past few weeks are defensive actions that have been taken to protect U.S. troops and U.S. interests. That's a common sense approach. The DOW, the president, secretary, all describing that. So if we see those threats, the president making clear, as has been indicated by those actions, he will take action, those defensive actions, as necessary. So fundamentally, the president wants a deal here, but as he said, he's going to see his objective fulfilled one way or another.
So Condoleezza Rice dropped a piece last night in the Wall Street Journal that I encourage all of our viewers to check out. She makes a lot of sense about the region and all the different pieces in the puzzle. Here's what she says in part. What the U.S. has accomplished in Iran thus far. Strategic patience is hard. It isn't always satisfying, but time is on the side of the U.S. and its allies. Reaching no deal is fine. Reaching a bad deal is not. I don't know if you read her piece or not, but generally speaking, do you agree with what she's saying?
Well, the president's been clear he's not going to be rushed into a bad deal. Take the JCPOA, for example, the Obama nuclear deal. In our view, that gave the Iranian regime a roadmap to a nuclear weapon. It freed up funds. It didn't actually address the nuclear issue in a way. It would have expired by now as well. That was a bad deal for the American people. And the president is not going to be rushed into a bad deal. He holds all of the cards here, including the results of Operation Epic Fury, decimation of the military, but also economic fury. The fact that we are denying the Iranian regime hundreds of millions of dollars a day, in addition to the maximum pressure campaign, actions that we've taken even this week from the State Department and Treasury Department to make sure we're targeting their revenue funds that are trying to evade U.S. sanctions.
Is there any concern, though, that the Iranians are trying to run out the clock because they know that every day closer to the midterms, it's harder for the president to pursue a military option? Meantime, you have them trying to sort of transform this negotiation into something that applies to Israel and Lebanon. And there was this news of talks on Wednesday, according to the Wall Street Journal. Israeli and Lebanese governments agreed to renew the ceasefire, but the truce is contingent upon cessation of hostilities with the Iran-backed Hezbollah group. Hezbollah wasn't involved in the talks. I mean, how do you get them to comply with something they weren't involved with that Iran is now making a key piece of this broader negotiation?
Well, 2 points. First, in terms of the clock here, the president has taken decisive action to set back the Iranian nuclear program and prevent them from having a nuclear weapon. Those economic sanctions, economic fury continues. On the Lebanon-Israel talks, the Lebanese government is the legitimate representative of the Lebanese people. The foundation of the conversations happening here are sovereignty and security, and the United States playing a role to see if we can create the space for good faith conversations that will lead to long-term peace and prosperity. Of course, you recognize the right to self-defense. This is about security and sovereignty, supporting the Lebanese government and their sovereignty over the entirety of Lebanon.
So there's, take us inside these negotiations, the physical aspect of the negotiations. I want to read something from the Wall Street Journal. That says the following. Each proposal and counterproposal takes days to negotiate. It's complicated by the time it takes to wind new text through Iran's fractured leadership structure. How are we doing this? Where is the Ayatollah? Are we passing messages on a piece of paper? What's happening, Tommy?
Well, look, as the secretary describes, there is a fractured leadership that we're seeing on the Iranian side. The president's also discussed this. One of those outcomes of Operation Epic Fury was the fact that we saw the first rung of leadership, the second rung of leadership being killed in those actions. So what we're seeing right now here are communications back and forth. The secretary describing yesterday how those are through mediators when we're talking about talks. What we want to see, though, is that those objectives be fulfilled. Sometimes we're hearing different things in private than we are in public, but fundamentally the president cleared that we're seeing some movement. There are some things the secretary describing just yesterday in Congress that the Iranian regime is discussing that they weren't discussing a few months ago.
Okay, just a quick follow-up on that. Generally speaking, how long does it take for you to get an answer to a query on behalf of whatever the Iranian leadership is today?
Well, it really depends, and I think making sure we get those answers, those concrete answers, is part of what we're seeing this back and forth. But fundamentally, as the Secretary describing, we're seeing some openness to discuss things that they weren't discussing a few months ago. Again, as the Secretary is saying, that doesn't mean we can predict where this ultimately will end up, but we can rest assured that it won't be a bad deal for the American people. The president's going to see the fundamental objective be fulfilled.
I want to go back to something you just referenced, the difference between what we hear in private and public. Earlier this week, the president, didn't deny in an interview with Miranda Devine that he got, a little testy with Netanyahu in the contents of a call that were reported, and then there were, allegations that maybe those reports went a little further than what actually happened. But then Netanyahu spoke to CNBC yesterday. Let's play what he said.
I got to get into details of our conversations. We've had thousands, well, a lot of them. And if you think this is a crisis, you should be in some other conversations. But we've always found a way. We have so many agreements. We agree on the main things.
What is the biggest challenge for this administration in making sure that, as it's maintaining this relationship with its ally, that no external force is going to sort of separate the two? Is there a challenge domestically and abroad? I mean, describe that sort of field for us.
Well, I think from the diplomatic standpoint, I think going back to the president's trip to the region actually sets the stage for this administration. We see further cooperation with so many of our Gulf allies and partners, more cooperation than we've seen in decades. The problems that we're addressing are tough problems. They're problems that have existed for decades. But it's the president's leadership that have opened the first conversations between the government of Lebanon and Israel since 1993. The president's leadership that's seen decisive action to address the Iranian nuclear threat. The president's leadership that's led to increased economic and security partnerships in the region. So the president is this leader who can bring people together and solve problems.
Just back to the Rice piece again. Condoleezza Rice makes a lot of those points. She says the region has already been changed for good. Has it?
It has indeed, and that's because of President Trump's leadership.
Okay.
All right.
Tommy, thanks for coming in.
Thanks,
you.
Tommy.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
Appreciate you coming to New York.
Thank you.
All right?
Yeah.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.